nearly 200 Christian leaders accused of child abuses in 2025. We're talking pastors, youth group leaders, priests, Christian school teachers. It's not one denomination. This is something that continues to happen across our churches. And so this is why, this part with FBSN is so critical, and why, it's so near and dear to me, is that we need to continue to get the word out.
Shanna Honeycutt here with the Faith-Based Security Network. I am super glad to be on today with Ron Lugo. He is a wealth of information when it comes to child protection operations, and this is just an essential topic that's so often overlooked whenever our teams are putting together their security operations for their ministry. I think it was 2018 or 2019 when I met you at Second Baptist,
Yep.
and we were working registration together. We were answering questions for FBSN, and I didn't even know who you were, but
Yeah.
we got to know each other a little bit. I was in the midst of just a very silent, when it comes to sexual abuse, it's not something anybody wants to talk about, and
Right.
I was a foster mom, and my kids, I was introduced into this world when I was placed with two girls that the caseworker said was the worst case of sexual abuse that she had seen, where the victims survived. So I
Yeah.
was navigating this new world and researching everything I could, because it's a difficult thing to navigate, and not
Absolutely.
people understand it, and it's not like you can share it. It's their story to share, which my,
Absolutely.
my girls are now adults, and they have given me permission to share. They said if
Yeah.
it can help even one person not go through what they went through, it's worth it.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
anyway, I knew right away whenever you started talking about what you did for a living that you were one of those few that really understood this. So go
Yeah.
ahead and introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about your career leading up to this.
Yeah, so I've been blessed by God to have been just working with kids who have been abused, whether it's physically, emotionally, neglect, or sexually, since pretty much right after I graduated from college, where I went to school at Penn State, and I got my degree in administration of criminal justice. I started working for the state of Florida as a child protective investigator, foster care worker, adoptions counselor, and really it piqued my interest in continuing to want to serve kids, to be able to be an advocate for them, in a world where, based upon their nature, based upon their ages, aren't able to protect themselves. And so God allowed me to just be trained up in these areas. In early 2000, I think 2000, 2001, I became a police officer here in the state of Florida. And wouldn't you know it, God continued to place this in my heart to continue to want to work with these type of cases, individuals, which are some of the harder cases to be able to want to investigate and be a part of. But the Lord continued to, again, place it in my heart, continue to just receive all the training I could, and it eventually allowed me to work in youth services within the police department, allowed me to supervise units such as youth services, and then ultimately allowed me to supervise a detective unit that many of you know as Special Victims, SVU, in which, those are the type of the worst cases with regards to abuse, with regards to sexual abuse. And as part of that, I got to investigate some horrible, horrible crimes against children, not just locally, but also across the country, and really just be a part of it. With that, God has just blessed me now in my role as a pastor to oversee um, youth, kids ministries, young adults ministries, and really just try to continue to allow that the knowledge, the things that I've learned, have been a part of, to help young adults, young children, teenagers as they navigate some of the things that happen to them, and make sure that as a church, we're doing everything we can to protect them and provide for them as they move forward.
That's awesome. Your two worlds have really combined to make you a great teacher in this area.
No,
So
I appreciate that.
yeah, yeah, we love having you as part of the FBSN. So, can you give our viewers just some simple key procedures that they can put into place that
Mhm.
will make the children in their churches safer today?
Yeah, one of the things that has to be established that we talk about at the SOS is if you're listening to me, and you've never been to an SOS or a regional event, I just encourage you, Carl, Shauna, the FBSN family has just been just something that God put in our hearts, my heart, to continue to provide this knowledge, this information to everyone, because unfortunately, not everybody that comes to the church is a believer. Not everybody that comes to the church is walking right with the Lord. There are many individuals who unfortunately serve, who allow the enemy to take a hold of their hearts, and they prey on the youngest, the most vulnerable, which are our kids. And so you have to establish protocols as to who it is that's allowed around your children. You have to establish simple things such as a background check. I get that money is an issue for everyone. Ministries, not everybody, has just all this kind of money to be able to, to pay for things like a background check. But a check of looking through the local courts is not enough. I've shared in an SOS, Shauna knows, stories in which individuals travel from a state in which they're a sexual offender, and they go to a state and they've become even a pastor in charge of kids. How does that happen? Well, it shouldn't happen if we're doing the little things such as doing a background check and being thorough as to who we allow around our kids. That application process, the training as to not everybody that says, "Hey, I have a calling to serve with kids," has that calling. So you have to have that established, those procedures, those protocols to be able to guide people that in their hearts may have that desire but really don't, aren't called for that. And so that's where the discernment of the spirit is needed in leadership, and the right people to lead ministries such as kids ministry. When it comes to kids and those who serve, it's one of the most important ministries in the church. It's the future. And so it really should be looked upon from that perspective by even just getting those basics down.
Yeah, I love what you said about the training and the vetting, because
Yeah.
not everybody that is applying to those jobs has good intentions in their heart. They are targeting
Yes.
their victims, and they're seeking them out, and like you said, traveling to a different state sometimes to get a target rich environment. And I realized quickly that anybody can be targeted. There's a grooming process that people go through, that perpetrators go through. Uh, but there are some things that these people look for that
Hmm.
that make kids easier targets. And
Yeah.
my girls happened to come across as easier targets, partially because of what they had already been through. So they had that low self-esteem. They were needing people
Yep.
to give them attention. And I was a single mom at the time too. So,
Hmm.
it felt like a battle to keep them safe. What
Yeah.
what type of kids, and like I said, anybody can be targeted if they get that time alone with that child. It
Yep.
doesn't matter. But there are characteristics that these predators look for. Can you speak to that
Yeah.
a little bit?
Mentioned it already. It's oftentimes our kids that feel like they're loners, that they're not, accepted from the majority. So in other words, they feel like outsiders. And so when someone takes somebody that's an outsider and pays that attention for to them, perhaps gives them what their parents are not giving them with regards to attention, providing them with these things, gifts, etc., makes it a lot easier to be able to groom them. Oftentimes these are kids that have low self-esteem because of their looks, whether it's disabilities that they may have, whether it's their weight, what they feel or perceive their appearance to be. Those are all areas where these individuals will be like, that they just love to pay attention to groom them, to show them that, hey, I'm gonna love you the way you are, but unfortunately they're doing it with bad intentions. And so that's how they're able to get those doors. Sometimes they find families. Let's be honest, families that, perhaps the mother is by herself raising several kids, and here they're able to provide, and they're using the family situation as a way to manipulate the mother and gain access to the children. And so, it's just something that it varies. It doesn't matter how big, how small, what denomination, what race. It happens across the world. And this is something that we're constantly seeing throughout.
Yeah, so the training that our childcare workers and our leadership has should highlight these grooming behaviors, because
Absolutely.
not all of these behaviors, gifts and attention, are always bad. Sometimes it's just somebody with good intentions.
Yes.
But if they understand what the grooming process looks like, they're going to be a lot more careful with that. And if
No,
you
and that's really the key. And, it's amazing oftentimes as a police officer where the parent will be like, you know, I saw that, but I didn't pay attention to it. And it's just that paying attention. And it's not just for the parents, because now we're talking about, volunteers and staff. Pay attention to what you're seeing, that ability to understand what they are. So if you have that basic knowledge, by no means that we're telling you to be an expert. I've had over 30 years of this, and I can still learn from it. So by no means do we achieve a level of where, oh, okay, I got it. No, but we got to continue to look to develop and prepare ourselves, because sometimes there are things that are right in front of us that we're ignoring.
Yeah. And if you're suspecting it, there's a lot of states, if you hear anything, if you hear an accusation, everybody is a mandatory reporter. That's how Tennessee is. I'm not sure what Florida is,
Yeah,
but
Florida, where any adult that is aware of it is a mandatory reporter.
yeah. So you need to know your own state laws and ready, know what be able to look up that number of who to call for that and
Absolutely.
report those. So we've heard a lot of stories years ago coming out about priests in the Catholic Church, and it seemed to be a Catholic priest issue. But that's not really the case, is it?
No, it's not the case. We're this is unfortunately, a crime, sins that are occurring throughout. Doesn't matter what denomination, what group. A few years ago we had it with the Southern Baptists. Allegations came up, and now recently this year, as you can see up on the screen, the Assemblies of God churches are accused of shielding predators and allowing them to keep abusing children. It's something that it does not discriminate. It doesn't matter what race, culture, um, denomination. It's something that we are seeing throughout Christian churches, schools, organizations. It's been a problem now for many years. So this is just something that we see not just in Catholics. It This is a sin. This is a crime that goes throughout all. One of the things when I share at SOS, I always go back, you know, 3 4 months, and I just look at the area of the SOS, and I say, show me, pastors, leaders, volunteers, individuals affiliated with churches who have committed crimes or have been arrested for crimes against children. And every year I can, speak on quite a handful of them that occur within those areas that we do the SOSs. Here's a published report from just this year alone through October. Nearly 200 Christian leaders accused of child abuses in 2025. We're talking pastors, youth group leaders, priests, Christian school teachers. It's not one denomination. This is something that continues to happen across our churches. And so this is why, this part with FBSN is so critical, and why, it's so near and dear to me, is that we need to continue to get the word out, that we have to be prepared, better prepared to protect our children in our churches and in our schools, in our Christian schools. And so, even if you don't have a Christian school, even if a child is not abused within the church, oftentimes it's family, but that child comes to the church. You can be protecting that child from the abuse that's happening at home. And so that's why it is so important for us just to be have this understanding of what is going on, what's happening in the churches, outside of the churches, and what we can do to better prepare to protect our kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When it happens inside of a church, so it seems like it still happens where the church covers it up and
Yeah.
tries to handle it internally. So as security operators, when we hear an accusation, what are our first steps as security operators?
So, one of the things is you have to be careful because there's a fine line. And it's one of the things that we speak about and teach about. Security operators are not police officers. So, every state has certain laws as to the questions that can be asked and by who they can be asked, in order to not to re-traumatize a child. As you know, in your dealings with your girls, um, myself, in my personal life, and as an officer, I've learned over the years that every time that you share, there's emotions that come up with it. For a child, this can be re-traumatizing them. Studies have shown that. So the states have indicated that we have to protect kids from this. And so they limit the amount of interviews that can be done. And so that's why it's important for the child protection officers to get just enough information to know that, hey, it appears that something has happened, or this child may be a victim of something, whether it's in the church, outside of the church, whatever that may be. Take it to whatever that chain of command is, to then the decision to call the police. They're the ones that are the police and your child protector services. They're the experts. They're the ones that need to get involved to determine where this should go for. And so our role is to gather whatever information we can without asking particulars, without asking for details, and just gather enough information to you already feel that, hey, something's not right, you know, and allow then the police and the child protective services to handle it from there. Here in the state of Florida, we're allowed one interview. And so police officers gather the information where they're taken to a forensic interviewer, and the forensic interview is the one that asks the question. As a police officer or my detectives, we would sit and watch through behind the glass window and watch these interviews be conducted, because we couldn't do our own interviews because of the re-traumatization of the child. So gather enough information to know that to kind of to satisfy that feeling like something doesn't feel right, and allow them to make that decision. That's what they're paid for. That's what they're trained for, and that will help the process happen and protect the child as well.
Great. I've heard a lot of different statistics, and the statistics we follow, FBSN, are just the deadly force incident study.
Hmm.
But we get every church crime come across our, so all of these sex crimes, it just, when you're getting those directly to sort through,
Yeah,
it just seems like such a huge issue. But
absolutely.
one of the things that is hard for people a lot of times is they can't believe it. They cannot believe this person that is respected in their church would do this, and it's being reported by a child. But I've heard, like I said, different statistics, and some of them show like 94% of the time it's not a false allegation. And I know those
Hmm.
numbers are not, cut and dry. It's very hard to get an actual number of that. But
Yeah.
most of the time, it's not going to be a false accusation, because it's something that is, there's so many reasons why a child keeps that quiet. So if something does come out, we need to believe them and pass it along to the people that can investigate it. So
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the things that I've shared, I don't remember if I shared in this last SOS, but that I've shared in the past is like what you indicate that the church people they don't believe it, especially when it happens within the church. There's been times where um, I recall a time in which the pastor, senior pastor, was alleged to have been the one abusing the children. And what did the parents do? They didn't call the police. Nobody called the police. They took the child to the senior pastor, who was the one who was abusing the child.
mm,
And that the senior pastor wound up beating this child to the point where left significant bruising on this child, and the investigation revealed that it was true. The sexual allegations had been happening for a long time, and then on top of that, this is what this individual did. And so instead of protecting the child, they would go to the person who was the suspect. It's the mentality of, well, it can't happen because they're a pastor. It can't happen because they're a leader. We have to stop thinking of things in that way. As you indicated, that percentage, that 94%, up or down, whatever that number may be, truthfully, but for a child to admit of something that is going on, it takes quite a bit of courage. It takes quite a bit of an action for them to say, this is what's happened to me. This is what's going on in my life right now. Um, and so that is, like you indicated, such a huge reason for us to listen and to give that to the individuals who are trained to take it to the next level, so that that can be commenced to help and protect that child. Going to or confronting the individual is not the way to go. That's just going to cause more issues within it. As and that was just one example that I shared with you. There's multiple where they don't believe that this is true, and they go to the suspect and tell them this is what's been alleged. We know that with sin, men, women don't. It's not just men. We're talking women as well.
mm,
There have been plenty of cases that I've investigated where women abuse children. Um, and so it's something that is a part of the world we live in. We live in a sinful world, and no one's exempt. And so our enemy will use anybody that he can use. And unfortunately, he's using individuals even within the church.
yeah, and that's heartbreaking. We want to see, like the Bible says, let the little children come to me and do not hinder them. And I just
Absolutely.
feel like the church has gotten such a bad reputation for covering
Mhm.
things up, and it makes people very angry. So
Yeah,
as it should. So it would be
absolutely.
wonderful to be that sanctuary for these kids, and like you said earlier, whenever you hear something is going on at home, because these kids are coming in from bad
Yeah,
situation too, for us to be the ones to help turn that around. So to be that
absolutely.
January. So
Yeah.
super excited to be there in Florida.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having you guys. I think it'll be a great event. I know we'll have various speakers that are going to present just all kinds of awesome things, and I hope that everyone's able to join us and just be a part of it. Whether you decide to become a member of FBSN or not, it's just partaking in this knowledge to better protect your church in every aspect of church security is really what these things are about.
Yeah, and this is going to be a 2-day event, so
Yeah,
it's pretty close. It's going to be like a mini security operations summit. So
absolutely.
this will be a lot of good information. So I'm
Yep,
looking
it's going to
forward.
be fun. Yep, looking forward to having you guys.